The rain drummed against our kitchen window as Sarah poured herself a third glass of wine. I watched her from across the table, noticing how she avoided my eyes, a tell I'd learned to recognize over our 7 years of marriage. "There's something I want to talk about," she finally said, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. I set down my phone, giving her my full attention. "What's on your mind?" She took a long sip before speaking. "I've been thinking about us. About our relationship. Don't you think things have gotten predictable?" My stomach tightened. This wasn't the first time she'd brought up our stagnant marriage. 6 months ago, it was couples therapy. 3 months ago, a spontaneous trip to Costa Rica. Now apparently there was something new. "We've been through this, Sarah. Marriage isn't supposed to be a constant adrenaline rush. We have stability, trust, a good life." I know, she interrupted, finally meeting my eyes. "But what if there was a way to add excitement without threatening what we have?" I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "I'm listening." She pulled out her phone and showed me a website. My eyes widened as I processed what I was seeing. A members-only club, elegantly designed, promising exploration for adventurous couples. "A swingers party?" I said flatly. "It's not what you think," she rushed to explain. "It's very upscale, very safe. Couples only. There are rules, boundaries. Some people just watch, some participate. But everyone respects limits." I stood up, pacing to the window. The rain had intensified, matching the storm brewing in my chest. "Where is this coming from?" Your therapist suggested we go to a swingers party?" I spun around to face her. "Not exactly," Sarah admitted, color rising in her cheeks. "She said we needed to break out of our comfort zones, try new experiences together. I found this on my own." "And you think watching strangers have sex, or worse, participating, is going to fix whatever you think is broken?" She stood up, approaching me with her hands raised in a placating gesture. "I'm not saying anything is broken, Daniel. I'm saying we've been together since college. We're only 32. Sometimes I wonder what we might have missed." There it was, the truth beneath the therapeutic language and the talk of reigniting passion. She wondered what she'd missed by settling down young. "If you want to sleep with other people, Sarah, just say it. Don't dress it up as some kind of couple's adventure. That's not fair." Her voice cracked. "I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to find a way to satisfy this curiosity without destroying our marriage. Isn't that better than lying? Better than cheating?" I wanted to argue, but part of me recognized the twisted logic. At least she was being upfront. At least she was asking permission instead of seeking forgiveness later. "I need to think," I said, moving toward the door. "Daniel, please, just consider it. One night. If you hate it, we leave. No questions, no judgment. But if you won't even try, if you won't even meet me halfway on this..." She left the threat hanging in the air. I knew what she meant. If I said no, I'd be the rigid one, the boring one, the reason our marriage was stuck in neutral. Over the next week, she wore me down with research, testimonials from other couples, assurances about safety and boundaries. She promised we could just observe, that we'd set strict rules, that my comfort was paramount. "If anything makes you uncomfortable, we leave immediately," she swore, holding my hands in hers. "I promise, Daniel. This is about us experiencing something together, not about me being with other people." I should have trusted my instincts. I should have recognized the gleam in her eyes. Not excitement about doing something with me, but barely contained anticipation about doing something forbidden. But I loved her. And I was scared of losing her to her own wandering thoughts, so I said yes. The Saturday of the party arrived with unseasonable warmth. Sarah had been preparing all week. New lingerie, a dress that walked the line between elegant and provocative, a fresh manicure. I watched her transform in our bedroom mirror, applying makeup with more care than she'd shown for our own wedding. "You look beautiful," I said, trying to inject enthusiasm into my voice. She smiled at me through the reflection. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." I'd chosen simple black slacks and a button-down shirt. Sarah had suggested I wear something more adventurous, but I drew the line at peacocking for strangers as we drove to the venue, an upscale loft in the city's warehouse district. Sarah reviewed the rules we'd established. Rule 1, we stay together the entire time. Rule 2, we're only observing tonight. Rule 3, either of us can call it quits at any moment, no questions asked. She reached over and squeezed my hand. "Sound good?" "Sounds good," I echoed, though my palms were sweating. The entrance was discreet, just a number on a heavy steel door. Sarah pressed the buzzer, and a voice crackled through the intercom asking for our confirmation code. She recited it from memory. She'd apparently memorized it days ago. Inside, the space was more sophisticated than I'd expected. Soft lighting, plush furniture, a bar staffed by a professional bartender. Well-dressed couples mingled, laughing and chatting as if this were any upscale cocktail party. If you ignored the distinct energy in the air, anticipation mixed with possibility, you might mistake it for a networking event. A woman in her 40s approached us, extending her hand. First-timers? That obvious? Sarah laughed, and I noticed she didn't mention that I was the reluctant one. You'll be fine. I'm Monica, one of the hosts. Ground rules. Consent is everything, no means no. Respect boundaries. And what happens here stays here. There are private rooms upstairs, semi-private spaces behind those curtains, and the main area where most people start. Take your time, have a drink, get comfortable. Sarah thanked her, already scanning the room with hungry eyes. That's when I felt the first real twist of unease in my gut. We got drinks, whiskey for me, champagne for her, and stationed ourselves near the bar. I was content to observe from a distance, but Sarah kept inching closer to the action, her body language opening toward the room rather than toward me. See anyone interesting? She murmured. The question caught me off guard. I thought we were just observing. We are, she said quickly. I just meant, observing anyone in particular. A couple approached us. Melissa and Jason, both attractive, mid-30s, clearly veteran attendees. They engaged us in easy conversation, asking about our jobs, our interests, normal small talk except for the undercurrent of assessment. Your first time, Melissa said to Sarah, ignoring me entirely. How are you feeling? Excited, Sarah admitted. A little nervous. That's natural. The key is to go at your own pace. Melissa's eyes flicked to me briefly. Both of your paces, Jason picked up the thread. Some couples find it easier to start by letting others watch them. Takes the pressure off making decisions about others and lets you focus on each other. Sarah's hand found mine, squeezing it. What do you think, Daniel? Every instinct screamed no, but I saw the hope in her eyes. The rules were clear. We'd be together, just with an audience. And if it satisfied her curiosity enough to end this experiment. Where? I heard myself ask. They directed us to one of the semi-private areas, a space enclosed by sheer curtains that provided visual access while maintaining a bubble of separation. As we entered, I noticed several couples had already positioned themselves around the room's perimeter, watching the various spaces. Sarah turned to me, her eyes bright. Are you okay with this? I nodded, though my mouth was dry. She kissed me then deeply, and for a moment I forgot about the audience. But as her hands moved to my shirt, I became hyper-aware of the shadows moving beyond the curtains, of the eyes watching us. What happened next unfolded with a dreamlike quality. Sarah was performing, I realized. Every movement, every sound was amplified, directed outward rather than toward me. She wasn't making love with me. She was putting on a show. I went through the motions, trying to focus on her, on us, but the disconnect was jarring. Afterward, as we dressed, she was electric with adrenaline. That was incredible, she whispered. Did you feel that energy? I felt something, but incredible wasn't the word I'd use. We emerged from the curtained space and I expected us to leave. We'd done something together, pushed a boundary. Surely that was enough. But Sarah wasn't heading toward the exit. She was heading toward the bar, toward Melissa and Jason, toward the continuation of the evening. Sarah, I called after her. She looked back, and in her eyes I saw it. The hunger wasn't satisfied. It was only awakened. I caught up with Sarah at the bar where she was already deep in conversation with Melissa. Jason had his hand casually resting on the small of Melissa's back, and I noticed how Sarah's body angled toward them, mirroring their open posture. Daniel, Sarah said brightly when she saw me. Melissa was just telling me about the upstairs rooms. They have different themes. Some are more intimate, some are more social. The way she said social sent a chill through me. I think we should probably head out soon. It's getting late, Sarah's smile faltered. It's only 11. Come on, we just got here. We've been here for 3 hours, I corrected her. Melissa tactfully excused herself, mentioning something about finding her husband, leaving us alone. Sarah's expression shifted from bright enthusiasm to irritation. Why are you being like this? Being like what? Following our rules? We said we'd observe, we did more than that, and now I think we should go. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You're not even trying to have an open mind. Look around. Everyone here is relaxed, having fun, exploring without judgment. I'm not judging them. I'm uncomfortable. That was our third rule, remember? Either of us can call it quits. Her jaw tightened. You're right. I'm sorry, just give me 15 more minutes. Let me use the bathroom, say goodbye to a few people. Okay, I nodded, relieved. 15 minutes I could handle. But 15 minutes turned into 30, then 45. I searched the main floor, checked near the bar, scanned the conversation clusters. No Sarah. My chest tightened as I realized where she must have gone. The staircase to the second floor loomed before me. I'd avoided it all evening, as if staying on the main floor meant maintaining some line of innocence. Now I climbed it with heavy steps, each one feeling like a betrayal, though whether I was betraying Sarah's privacy or my own dignity, I wasn't sure. The second floor was dimmer, more intimate. Doors lined a hallway, some closed, some ajar. The sounds that drifted out made my stomach turn. I walked slowly, peering into the open rooms, hating myself for looking, unable to stop. Then I found her. The room was one of the social spaces, larger, with multiple couples. Sarah was on a couch and she wasn't alone. Jason was beside her, his hand on her thigh. They were kissing. I stood frozen in the doorway. She hadn't seen me yet. None of them had. They were too absorbed in their own world. Sarah broke away from Jason, laughing at something Melissa said from across the room. Then her hand moved to Jason's chest, sliding down with clear intent. Sarah. My voice came out strangled. Her head snapped toward me, eyes wide. For a moment, genuine fear flashed across her face. But then something else replaced it. Defiance. Daniel, I can explain. We had rules. I was surprised by how calm I sounded. Inside, I was shattering. 3 simple rules. She stood up, adjusting her dress. Jason had the decency to look uncomfortable. You're being dramatic. We were just talking, just kissing. It's not like you're minimizing. That's what you do when you know you've crossed a line. I looked at Jason. Did she tell you we agreed to only observe together? His expression answered my question. Daniel, please. Sarah approached me, reaching for my arm. Let's talk about this downstairs. I pulled away from her touch. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. I turned and walked toward the stairs. Behind me, I heard her calling my name, heard her hurried footsteps. She caught up with me in the parking lot as I was unlocking the car. You're seriously going to leave me here? I looked at her, really looked at her. Her makeup was smudged, her dress disheveled, her eyes bright with alcohol and adrenaline. She looked like a stranger. You wanted to feel single again, I said quietly. Consider this practice. What's that supposed to mean? I climbed into the driver's seat. It means find your own way home. I need time to think. Daniel, you're being ridiculous. It was just a kiss. You're acting like I slept with him. Yet, I said. The word you're missing is yet. Her face flushed with anger. So that's it? 7 years of marriage and you're going to throw it away over a kiss at a party you agreed to come to? I agreed to observe. With you together. You agreed to that too, remember? I started the engine. The difference is I kept my word. I drove away, watching her in the rearview mirror. She stood there for a moment, probably expecting me to come back to give in like I always did. When I turned the corner, she was pulling out her phone, probably calling Melissa for a ride or maybe Jason. The drive home took 30 minutes, but it felt like hours. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my mind replaying the scene over and over, the way she'd looked at Jason, the way her hand had moved down his chest, the way she'd been ready to do more before I interrupted. But what haunted me most was the defiance in her eyes when I'd caught her. Not shame, not remorse, defiance. As if I was the unreasonable one for objecting to watching my wife betray our marriage. At home, I didn't go to bed. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, the same table where she'd first proposed this disaster. I pulled up the phone number my brother had given me 6 months ago, a divorce attorney he'd used. At the time, I'd deleted it, offended he'd even thought I might need it. Now I wished I'd saved it. I found it in my brother's old text messages and stared at it for a long time. Was I really ready to do this? To end my marriage over one night? But it wasn't one night, I realized. It was the weeks of pressure to attend the party. The way she'd steamrolled my concerns. The performative sex in the curtained area. The lie about 15 minutes. the kiss and whatever would have come next. It was the fact that she'd looked at me like I was an obstacle to her freedom rather than her partner. At 3 a.m., I started drafting an email to the attorney. I heard Sarah's key in the lock around 4:30 a.m. I was still at the kitchen table, my laptop screen glowing in the darkness. The email to the divorce attorney sat in my drafts folder, unsent but complete. She stumbled in, her heels in her hand, makeup fully ruined now. She froze when she saw me sitting there. "You're still up," she said unnecessarily. "Couldn't sleep." She set her shoes down carefully, moving toward me with cautious steps. "Daniel, we need to talk about what happened." "I agree, but not right now. You've been drinking, I'm exhausted, and nothing good comes from conversations at 4:30 in the morning." She nodded, looking almost relieved to postpone the confrontation. "Okay, tomorrow then, or today, I guess." I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, heard the shower run, heard her eventually settle into bed. I stayed at the kitchen table until dawn began to light the sky, then finally sent the email to the attorney. By 8 a.m., I'd already received a response. Attorney Michelle Kowalski had an opening that afternoon if I wanted to move quickly. I confirmed the appointment. I spent the morning collecting documents, marriage certificate, financial records, deed to the house, bank statements. Every paper I gathered felt like removing a brick from the foundation of our life together. My hands shook as I worked, but my resolve didn't waver. Sarah emerged around noon looking haggard. She'd tried to cover the damage with makeup, but her eyes were swollen and red. Hangover or crying, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. "Hey," she said softly, pouring coffee. "Can we talk now?" I gestured to the chair across from me. She sat down, wrapping her hands around her mug like she needed its warmth. "I'm sorry," she started. "Last night got out of hand. I had too much to drink, got caught up in the atmosphere. But nothing really happened, Daniel. It was just a kiss." "Don't minimize it, Sarah. It's insulting." She flinched. "Okay, you're right. It was more than I promised. I broke our rules. But I came home. I chose you. You came home at 4:30 in the morning. You came home because the party ended and you ran out of options. That's not fair. What happened after I left?" I asked, watching her face carefully. She looked away. "I stayed for another hour maybe. Talked to some people. Then Melissa and Jason gave me a ride home." "Did you kiss him again?" Her silence was damning. "Did you do more than kiss?" "Daniel, why does it matter? I'm here now, apologizing, trying to fix this. It matters because I need to know what I'm dealing with." "Are you sorry you did it, or just sorry I caught you?" Her eyes flashed with anger. "You know what? Maybe I'm sorry I have a husband who's so uptight he can't handle his wife exploring her sexuality in a safe, consensual environment." There it was, the real Sarah, the one who'd been hiding beneath the apologies. "Exploring your sexuality," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling cheating now?" "It's not cheating if we both agreed to go to that party." "We agreed to observe, together. You went off alone and made out with a stranger. That's cheating, Sarah, no matter what euphemism you wrap it in." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I can't do this with you right now. You're not listening, you're not trying to understand." "You're right," I interrupted. "I'm not. Because there's nothing to understand. You wanted to sleep with other people. You found a way to make it seem reasonable. And when I set boundaries, you ignored them. So what now?" she demanded. "You're going to punish me forever? Give me the silent treatment? Make me grovel?" I stood up too, gathering the documents I'd compiled. "No, I'm going to see a divorce attorney at 3 p.m. I'll be back around 5 to pack some things." The color drained from her face. "You're not serious." "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." "Daniel, wait." She moved toward me, grabbing my arm. "Don't do this. We can work through it. More therapy, new boundaries, whatever you need. Just don't throw away 7 years over one mistake." I gently removed her hand from my arm. "It's not one mistake, Sarah. It's a pattern. It's the pressure to go to the party. It's ignoring our rules. It's the defiance in your eyes when I caught you. It's you coming home at 4:30 and still lying about what happened." "I'm not lying. Did you kiss him again after I left?" She closed her mouth, trapped, that's what I thought. I moved toward the door, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're someone who realized too late that she didn't want to be married. And that's okay. But I deserve someone who's sure." "I am sure," she said desperately. "I want you, Daniel. I want our marriage." You want security. You want someone to come home to after you've had your adventures. That's not a marriage, Sarah. That's having a safety net. I left her standing in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to take back everything I'd said, to pretend last night had never happened. That was the part that had loved her for 7 years, that had built a life with her, that had said vows in front of our friends and family. But there was another part, a stronger part now that knew I couldn't unknow what I'd learned about her. About us. The meeting with Attorney Kowalski was efficient and devastating. She listened to my story without judgment, took notes, explained my options. No-fault divorce in our state. Division of assets. The fact that we had no children would simplify things. How quickly do you want to move? She asked. As quickly as possible, she nodded. I can have papers ready by Wednesday. The question is whether you want to try separation first. Give yourself time to be sure. I'm sure. She studied me for a moment. Okay, I'll draw up the papers. You should consider where you're going to stay. Start separating finances. And prepare for her to fight this. She won't fight, I said, though I wasn't certain. They always do, Attorney Kowalski said gently, at least at first. I spent Sunday night at my brother's house, fielding his questions and accepting his quiet support. Monday, I returned to work, going through the motions in a haze. Tuesday, Attorney Kowalski called to confirm the papers were ready. Wednesday morning, I woke at 5 a.m. Sarah would still be asleep. She never woke before 7. I drove to our house, my house, with the manila envelope on the passenger seat. The key still worked. Of course it did. I hadn't changed the locks, hadn't wanted that level of drama. I moved quietly through the familiar rooms, each one holding memories that now felt corrupted. The couch where we'd watched 1,000 movies. The kitchen where she'd proposed her adventure. The bedroom where we'd made promises we couldn't keep. I placed the divorce papers on her nightstand, right where she'd see them when she woke. Then I sat down at the kitchen table one last time and wrote her a note. Sarah, I've spent the last 4 days trying to find a version of this story, where we work it out, where I forgive and forget, where we rebuild. I can't find it. It's not just what happened at the party. It's that you've been pulling away for months, maybe longer. The party was just the moment when you decided you were brave enough to let go. You wanted to feel single again. You wanted the freedom to explore, to experience what you thought you'd missed. I understand that desire even if I don't share it, but you can't have both. You can't have the security of marriage and the freedom of being single. You can't have me waiting at home while you figure out if the grass is actually greener. I deserve someone who chooses me with certainty, not someone who resents me for being an anchor when they want to float away. The divorce papers are upstairs. I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to give us both the truth we've been avoiding. We want different things now. Maybe we always did and we were just too young to know it. You wanted to feel single again. You got your wish. I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. Daniel, I left the note on the table and walked out of our house for the last time as a married man. My phone rang as I reached my car, Sarah's name flashing on the screen. She must have woken early, must have found the papers. I let it go to voicemail. Over the next few weeks, she tried everything. Tearful phone calls, long emails explaining how she'd made a terrible mistake. A visit to my brother's house that ended with him gently but firmly asking her to leave. She even showed up at my office once looking devastated, begging for another chance. I'll never do anything like that again, she promised. We can set whatever boundaries you want. I'll earn back your trust. But I'd realized something in the quiet nights after I'd left. Trust wasn't the issue. The issue was that she'd shown me who she really was when she thought she had permission. She was someone who got swept up in desire and excitement, who could rationalize away promises when something thrilling appeared. And I was someone who couldn't unknow that about her. The divorce was finalized in 3 months. No fault, equitable distribution of assets, a clean break. Sarah moved to the West Coast, a fresh start, she said. I heard through mutual friends that she was dating, exploring the single life she'd been craving. I hoped she was happy. I genuinely did. As for me, I took time to process everything. Therapy helped. Long conversations with my brother helped more. Slowly, I began to rebuild a version of myself that didn't include her. 6 months after the divorce, a colleague set me up on a blind date. Emma was a high school teacher. Divorced herself with a refreshing directness I appreciated. What happened with your marriage? She asked over dinner. No dancing around the subject. I gave her the abbreviated version, expecting judgment or discomfort. Instead, she nodded thoughtfully. My ex-husband had an affair. For 2 years before I found out. Everyone told me I should forgive him, that I should try to make it work, that 16 years of marriage was worth fighting for. Did you try? For about a week. Then I realized I was trying to convince myself to stay with someone who'd spent 2 years lying to my face. And I thought, why? Why am I the one doing all the work to fix something I didn't break? I smiled, really smiled for the first time in months. Exactly. So here's my philosophy, Emma continued, raising her wine glass. Life's too short to spend it with someone who makes you doubt yourself. And it's definitely too short to spend it with someone who needs permission to respect you. We clinked glasses and I felt something shift inside me. Not healing exactly, that would take more time. But the beginning of understanding that leaving Sarah wasn't giving up on marriage. It was refusing to settle for a version of marriage that required me to diminish myself. A year later, Emma and I were still together. We took things slowly, building trust brick by brick. She never pushed for more than I could give, never made me feel inadequate for having boundaries. One evening, curled up on her couch watching a movie, she paused it suddenly. What? I asked. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For being someone who knows what he wants and isn't afraid to walk away from what he doesn't. A lot of people can't do that. They stay in situations that diminish them because leaving feels harder. I thought about Sarah, about our kitchen table conversations, about the party that ended everything. Leaving was the hardest thing I've ever done. But you did it anyway. That's courage, Daniel. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was just self-preservation. Either way, I was finally exactly where I needed to be. With someone who chose me with certainty, every single day. As for Sarah, I heard she eventually settled down with someone who shared her appetite for adventure. I hoped they were happy together, that they'd found a way to make it work that honored who they both were. Our marriage had been right for a time. We'd loved each other truly, even if imperfectly. But people grow, sometimes in different directions. The tragedy isn't the growing. It's trying to force compatibility where it no longer exists. That night at the party, Sarah crossed a boundary she couldn't uncross. But maybe she'd done me a favor. Maybe she'd shown me clearly, undeniably, that we'd been holding on to something that had already ended. You can't compromise on fundamental values. You can't negotiate your way into wanting the same things. And you definitely can't build a future with someone who sees your boundaries as obstacles to their happiness, rather than expressions of your worth. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it, and in the end, that was worth everything.